What up, bruz? Ceej here. Tony and I just wrapped up our season 7 recaps, and we will be back next week with our season 7 report card. However, with the announcement of Kamala Harris's presidency and the other chaotic things happening, we thought we would share some fun political chaos with our recap of My Date with the President's Daughter. This episode was recorded last year, but we didn't release it due to the strike. We hope that you enjoy our takes, although they may be a little outdated. We look forward to seeing you next week. And for more content like this, or for a sneak peek at our pilot episode of Bruh Meets World, The Next Chapter, a Girl Meets World fan cast, please go to our Patreon at patreon.com/BruhMeetsWorld. Enjoy the episode. When this boy meets world. What up, bros? What up, bros? And welcome to Bruh Meets World. When it's Bruh Meets World, your Boy Meets World fan cast. This is another extra credit episode for our summer series. I'm Ceej, by the way. I don't know if I said that.
I am Tony Curtis, and I'm very happy that we're continuing with the summer movie series, specifically this Boy Meets World run that we're doing this week with My Date with the President's Daughter. I'm so excited.
We are doing My Date with the President's Daughter, 1998 movie starring Will Friedle and Elizabeth Harno?
I don't know how to say her name.
Hanoi? I assumed it was like Illinois, so like Harnoy. I mean, that's what it smelled like. Okay, a little housekeeping first. Morning announcements. As usual, before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to all our listeners who have been sending us emails and recordings. We love hearing from you, and we want to share your thoughts. So please reach out to us at Bruh Meets World. Our website, leave us a voice message, and also you can just email us at bruhmeetsworld@gmail.com.
So, you know what else they can do, Ceej?
Oh, what else?
They can purchase merch.
Oh, yeah, you guys can purchase merch. I don't know if you know this or not, but like we have merch. We have a merch store. And we also have a brand new merch item this month. T, you want to tell them about that?
Yeah. Okay. So, Ceej, do you see how I'm drinking out of a mug that has nothing on it? It's almost as if it's primed for some Bruh Meets World type branding. Imagine I was drinking out of a cup that said Bruh Moment, with the full definition of what a bruh moment is, just for you guys who are maybe working in offices. You see a little, some microaggressions going down. You have that mug you could pull out in the company meeting, just as the little fuck you to the man.
A little fuck you to the man. That's exactly that's what we stand for.
My goal.
And then finally, you guys, as always, we have the request that you help us out. Increase our followers on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. If you're not, get over to YouTube. What are you doing? Look at our pretty faces. And critique our lighting, because as I said earlier, I am not in love with my lighting, and
you know what? We had this whole conversation before we started recording. I think your lighting looks great.
Thank you. You know what? Honestly, I'm just in one of those moods today where it's like I'm really insecure about every decision that I've made, and I think, if I'm not gonna lie, I think I flew a little too close to the dopamine sun with Threads that came out earlier this week.
Yeah. I got overwhelmed before I even jumped into it. I haven't jumped into it myself because I got overwhelmed at the concept of it. But you were on the other side of the ADHD where you just jumped full into it.
I jumped in. Well, I kid you not. I think it premiered Wednesday at like, I can't remember what time, but for my time, I saw it at like midnight, and it literally was all I did for like 2 hours until 2 a.m. Just being like, oh my God, this new toy. Woke up. First thing I did was be back on it again. And I mean, it was good because it helped our presence, but also I may have, again, a little too close to the dopamine sun. I got all of those interactions. I was enjoying myself. And then like today, I just woke up like questioning every single decision I've ever made.
You know what? This is something I also had to learn about myself. With that dopamine high, there's a dopamine crash. And so the more like hyper fixated you get, there's another side waiting for you on the other end of it. So
absolutely. Speaking of the other side, let's go into our other side of this conversation. Our summer movie makeover. Not makeover. God, you guys. Our summer movie series. My Date with the President's Daughter.
My Date with the President's Daughter. That song has been living rent-free in my head for 25 years.
See, I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen this movie before. Watched it for the very
Say it
first
ain't
time.
so, Ceej.
And that right off the bat, I was very much like, oh, I like this song. I'm like, it's a little cheesy, it's corny, but it's like perfectly 90s pop rock.
I have to say that this specific tune, and when I say this tune, I literally just mean My Date with the President. Just that segment of the song, almost like a jingle, has been an earworm for decades. And it's such a like forgettable theme song on paper. Like there's no reason why it should have lived and taken up storage space in my memory bank. But I can't look at the White House without singing that song to myself.
I think it's funny that you said that because, like, first of all, I saw a TikTok where Will was singing it, and he himself was like, "I'm so sorry to do this to you guys," but he started to sing it, and it's like he knew the power that he was unleashing. And then on top of that, I feel like it was created, like synthesized perfectly to be an earworm. Like you're repeating the hook over and over again. It's got like a little jingle to it, and like it's in there. I've literally just been sitting here the entire time thinking about that song.
You know, we were lucky enough to have Natanya on last week to discuss Munchie. We don't have Will on this week because the pod is most likely going to do this movie eventually. So we're just going to let him give his full thoughts on that broadcast. But I feel like you and I, as fans of the movie First Kid, are very primed to give our thoughts on this movie.
I did a live thread of watching this movie, and my first thought was security don't know what they doing in this movie. No. Like the First Kid would not stand for this.
Did we learn nothing, Disney?
I love what you said. Okay, just a warning right off the bat. This is a spoiler-filled review, so want to make sure that you guys know that. T, do you want to give like a really quick summary of the movie?
Yeah, sure. My Date with the President's Daughter, 1998. Callie has a curse. She's the daughter of the American president. And to make matters worse, it's an election year. But all she wants to do is go out on a date. Fortunately, geeky Duncan has the same goal. When they finally get to the date, however, a series of incidents could seriously damage the relationship and national security. Wow.
Wow. First things first, is it ever not an election year? Like, I just watched this and they were like, it's an election year. And I was like, I've never seen a piece of media where it's like not an election year or it's like it wasn't just an election year.
We need stakes. We need stakes to the actions that are happening in this movie, which are, in all fairness, batshit crazy.
This movie is insane. It goes on forever.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of blame all of you for telling me that this movie was amazing because I watched it being like, this is the never-ending movie.
You know what? It's so funny. You know, just first impressions before we get into it, I have to say that I was like, at some point, I was like, oh, I kind of hate this movie. But then at the end, I was like, I kind of love this movie. And it's kind of as good as any other rom-com from the era, I would argue. I'm
not disagreeing. Here's like, I didn't say that it was a terrible movie. I said it's the never-ending movie.
You're right.
There was like a time I was like, how long have I been watching this movie?
Duncan, go home. I wrote that multiple times in my notes.
Oh, so fun. Okay, right up. You said first impressions. I gave mine, which again, my first note was like, this is no First Kids. Like,
well, there's so many similarities between this and First Kid. Let's just get this right out the bat, because in First Kid, there's a kid who sneaks off to the mall and wants to go to a dance and has to elude Secret Service to get to a dance. And I'm like, this movie came out like a few years before this one. Why are they doing the same beats?
They were like, you know what the First Kid was missing? Dresses. Like, we need.
Yeah, we have a different demographic.
Exactly. Also, I mean, let's not pretend. It also had a black guy in it, and they were like, well, this isn't going to do anything for us. We need original content with white
There was
people.
multiple times I was watching this movie where I was like, if Duncan was played by a black man, this would be a different movie.
Actually, I kind of would like to see that movie. Oh. Jason Weaver.
Get him on the phone.
He's
only one call away.
We needed a My Date with the President's Daughter during the Obama years. We just did.
Oh wow! Yes, let's. Okay, we're gonna do pitches later.
Absolutely. Okay. But first, I did want to say, right off the bat, I'm watching the movie. I will not do this scene for scene, but I did want to mention like the first scene. We open up and it's Haley and she's in her bedroom and they're like, time to get up. And it's like, oh, you know, the whole routine is like, oh, an average girl with an average life. Oh, but wait, she's in the White House. And I was like, this probably would be a surprise if the movie wasn't called My Date with the President's Daughter. Like, I was
we know
like,
exactly what's going
what
on.
else would it be?
I just want to zoom in on the year of this because this is 1998, right? So
Correct.
is this playing on the idea of like romanticizing Chelsea Clinton's life somehow, like
Correct.
her being a public figure and the obsession of what it must be like to be a teenage girl in the White House? This is what's happening in the zeitgeist of that moment.
Absolutely. That's what I was thinking. I was like, this is basically like Chelsea Clinton is 17 at this time. And someone had the idea of what would it be like to be a 17-year-old in the White House. It's in the 90s, which is very important. And here's the thing, I actually feel like it's a question worth asking. If anything, I'm a little upset with the movie for not centering more around Hallie, because Hallie is the main, like, I mean, she's the president's daughter, and a lot of the story is moved along by her, but it's also told from the perspective of Duncan, who's going on a date with her. So it's like,
I don't actually feel like all the characters have arcs, like
they
across
do.
The board.
All the characters have arcs. I'm just saying I would have liked for the story to be told a little bit, like we open with Hallie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it feels like it's supposed to be her movie.
I
feel
see. Like
at some point in time,
story. Yeah.
I feel like at some point in time, they were like, we're not getting enough Duncan here. You know, like if you want this to be Duncan's movie, open up with Duncan. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like is he the true lead of the movie, or I understand that.
Yeah, that's all I feel.
This movie harkens back to a time where you could tell a movie about a presidential family and kind of avoid politics in a way that I feel like would be impossible to do. Even in this movie, they got into some shit that I was just like, oh wow, you're touching on some stuff, like sprinkling it in, but it felt more possible. Like when I think about like an American president, or I think about like even the West Wing, which I know is very political, but like it's all about like humanizing these like leaders in these way into making them real people in the way where I feel like now it's like, no, we want whales to eat them. Like, what are you talking about? Like it just it just wouldn't really work as well present day, I think.
It's funny. I was watching that interview with Hassan Minhaj and Barack Obama the other day, and like them, like Barack kind of talking about how politics used to be versus where we're at now, and this idea that like you have to pick a side, you have to kind of make a statement, because like that whole kumbaya world that in the 90s where it's like we don't see color, and like the party lines were at least blended closely together, so they all still wanted people to live,
this movie actually does a great job of showcasing that, and we'll get into it, between the president and Duncan's dad, about these two people who are able to see humanity in each other and overcome political differences to reach like a middle ground in a way that I'm like, oh, that's actually something that feels so foreign now, but like welcomed.
Absolutely. But like it just couldn't be. But then also to me, I was like, it in a way, it kind of talks about how, and I'm so sorry, you guys, you knew this when you were going into it and you were listening to us cover My Date with the President's Daughter, we would be bringing up politics. But it does to me kind of show how political allegiances change with personal preferences. Like the idea that they are all like, it's an election year and they are like, God, what is the name of the opponent? Richmond. It's like Richmond. It's reelect Richmond.
Yeah.
And then I think it's Olsen. Yeah.
Olsen. Yeah.
They were voting for Olsen, which again, Olsen twins. That's like, I was like, that's like a little thing in there. But anyway, they were voting for Olsen at the beginning of the movie, and then they get to know the president, and there's no like policy changes that he talks about. He doesn't say, hey, actually I've been trying to get education on the ballot and they're holding me back, or actually I have great plans for Tibet, like, and the Senate is holding me back. No, none of that. It's just like, oh, he's a nice guy. I went golfing with him a little bit. And
No,
I've
you're
my political
100%
stance.
right. Duncan's dad gets no reason to change his entire political stance. He simply gets to know this person as a human, and it's just like, well, I like him, so it's not really about his politics. I just like him as a person, which again feels like a very 90s way to vote. It's
He's
just
a
like,
president I can have a beer with.
yeah, I could go golfing with him. Yeah, he's cool, whatever. Like my kid dates his daughter. Like it feels so like broy in
Yeah,
a way that, to your point, it's just like nowadays I just feel like there are certain political stances that you would not be able to overcome in that situation.
absolutely. I do want to say, as I was saying, go back to it. This movie is interesting because uh security should just not be there. I mean, like, I think it's better if they're not there because it would make more sense.
When I tell you that I had to pause the movie, okay. I are we just jumping through this? Are we just jumping the scenes?
Again,
Okay.
like, I just, like, for me, I was like, this movie was so chaotic that I just, like, I feel like it's just easier if we just talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just start with this. They meet at a mall because she runs away to a mall. Duncan's at a mall in the CD store because it's the 90s. Where else are you going to be? He gets adult bullied. Whatever.
By his friends.
By his friends. I was like 17, really? I was like, yeah. All of you guys seem so old. Duncan is doing magic and his friends are bullying him about it. And like the whole thing is that, like, is magic cool? And I had this question for you. I wanted to know, do you think magic's cool?
Here's the thing. I don't know. Like, I think, like, it's one of those things where, like, I'm one of those black people where it's like, I love magic. Black people love magic. And you do like a magic trick in front of black people and it's good. Oh my God, fascinated. And that's how I am. I actually have a friend who's a magician, and he performs at the Magic Castle and all this other stuff. And he, like, for one New Year's Eve, he literally was just like doing very simple parlor tricks in the living room. I was as giddy as any schoolgirl. Like, I was embarrassed at myself because I just loved it so much. But I like,
you're not wrong. I love that Aziz Ansari joke where he's just like, like when black people see magic, their head actually explodes. They actually believe it's real.
Well, here's the thing. For me, I know it's not real. But I love the sleight of hand. I love you being able to, like, trick my eye. I enjoy it. And I'm never looking that closely because I want to be entertained.
You know what I think it is? I think that black people are always looking for tricks that are being pulled on them. We have a trauma history of constantly looking to see who's trying to pull one over on us. So when someone can do it in front of our faces, we're just like, whoa, we're looking for the details and we missed it. What's up?
See, I'm going to push back on you, and I will say, when someone's doing it purposefully and, like, we're in on it, that's when we can have fun. Because you're right. People always try to get one over on us, and we're just kind of like, you got to look. You got to pay attention to your surroundings. But when someone's like, hey, I'm going to trick your eye, but for fun, you're like, yeah, let's just do this.
I was a kid. I wish I knew some magic, but like I would like learn a sleight of hand card trick and forget it maybe a week later.
Absolutely. No, I will say, you asked, is it cool? As a kid, if you're focused on magic and that's like your brand, I feel like you will get teased. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that's one of those, like, niche interests that people. But here's the thing: in reality, if you're cool, if you yourself are cool, and you yourself carry it as in, yeah, and I do magic, ain't nobody can stop you.
I feel like it can be cool if you're cool about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the 90s would try to pigeonhole non-athletes as geeks at every turn. So anytime someone wasn't into sports, they were a nerd. So being in the magic or whatever, even like joining the choir, Troy Bolton, like it's just like all of this shit where you were just bullied for just being different. And this just feels like a prime example of that from the 90s.
I also want to say, in this moment where we meet Duncan, I was like, I'm supposed to believe that Duncan, with the hair that he has,
yes,
looking like Will Friedle, is having trouble getting girls. Now, I will say, Will himself says that at this time he could not get a date for the dance. And I'm like, what world is the 90s in? I don't get it.
No, this entire plot revolves around an objectively handsome man trying to find a date to a dance. And handsome guess what?
White man with money. Yeah. Like, I don't get it.
And he accomplishes it within 20 minutes. Barely an inconvenience. Apparently
it was a struggle. You know, this I think you just hit on like the nail on the head. When they say it was a struggle, what they mean is it was not handed directly to me.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't handed directly to me, well, then I must not need it. I must not be deserving of it.
Well, I want to give the movie some credit because in the beginning, I did kind of judge the way this, like how quickly he was able to get the date. But if you're looking at both character arcs, she even goes on to say, I would have said yes to anyone who asked me out because I was so desperate to get out the house, which I believe based on the opening scene. So even though while I'm watching this movie, I'm like, the movie actually does try to fill in the gaps and explain all of these things.
I feel like the movie actually, with the exception of security, which I'm sorry, everyone, I will harp on this because you don't understand how bad security is. These are the Secret Service and nobody's doing their job. But to move forward, the movie actually does answer a lot of questions. It actually has a lot of great pairings and interesting developments. It's just both chaotic and it kind of feels like stream of consciousness in its storytelling.
Well, okay, so here at this part of the film where Duncan's getting bullied by his friends for his magic, the she's all that of it all gets introduced, where he has apparently someone that's just like, you can't get a date to the dance. I bet you. Oh, I'll take that bet. And that's the plot.
I was like, can you not date in the 90s without putting money on it? Like every date in the 90s is set up by a bet. Like men don't talk to women unless they're challenged by another man and there's something on the line. What is that about?
Here's the thing. And she's all that. It was like, hey, I want you to take a purposefully dorky, nerdy, no way imaginable prom queen girl and turn her into a prom queen. It's innately insulting based on the bet itself. This one is just like, I bet you can't get a date to the dance. I don't really find that to be such an insulting.
I'm not saying it's insulting.
Bet.
I'm saying
it plays a big part in the plot later on, which is why I bring it up.
Can't men talk to women?
Oh, yeah.
Without it being a bet. Like that's the only thing that I'm curious about. Like no one did anything unless it was like I double dog dare you, and they're like bet, literally.
You're right, because like would he feel incentivized to even want to go to this dance anyway if it wasn't to just try to prove something to these dudes?
Not according to this
he would
movie.
Be practicing magic at home, having a great time. Okay, so Duncan and Hallie meet, and they immediately lie to each other about everything. She doesn't say that she's the president's daughter. He says that he's a karate expert rock climber, bungee jumper. And in a very Jasmine and Aladdin way, she is just like, I'm sick of being trapped and I want to get out. Like, let's go out. And so they arrange their date.
Question. Would you recognize the president?
Thank you. I'm so damn glad that you brought that up because I'm like, Duncan lives in DC and you don't recognize the president's daughter? Every 8th grader has to go to the White House. It's a part of your curriculum in DC, fam. Like, you know this. You know the address. You know what...
I was like, he was like, where do you live? And she gives him the address very casually, by the way. No, there'll be a security check. No, like none of that. Just literally, it's here. Pull up in your car Saturday night.
Yeah. And I get it. If he's from Sheboygan and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm following this GPS, whatever. You live in DC. You know where the White House is. You know who this girl is.
Or even, I literally wrote this. I was like, or even like, I expected, she goes 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a big White House. You live in DC. You at least making a not that White House joke. 100%. You know what I mean? Like,
question. If it were 1998, would you recognize Chelsea Clinton?
Yes.
100%.
Because she's on television everywhere.
Yeah. It's just like, unbelievable.
Like, well, okay. It'd be funny because like what the movie does do is like routinely has people say, oh, you look like the president's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I get that all the time, which again, I would even accept that from him. He doesn't even go there. He has no idea. But then also, the movie is very interesting to me because throughout the film, like the president is like in the middle of nowhere and no one says anything. And I was like, did anyone vote for this dude? Because no one seems to know who he is, who his daughter is. Like these
maybe
people are
it's
in
like
public.
when you're in like LA and you're like, you're getting coffee and you're just like, oh yeah, that's Chris Kattan, whatever. Like maybe it's just that the DC version of that is just like, oh, the president, yeah, whatever.
I'm sorry, but if I saw Barack Obama, I would be like, oh my God, it's Barack Obama.
This is
And
not
then
Barack. We have not reached a Barack level of
we have
presidency
not.
in
We have
this
not. But
multiverse.
all right. Let's even talk now. Let's talk Biden. If I saw Jill Biden, I'd be like, oh yo, that's the first lady.
Actually, I don't. I honestly, I feel like if Jill and Joe were like dressed down, they might just look like another old white couple to me.
So you know what? I will say this: I have better face recognition. Like I'm not great with names, but faces I'm good with. So if I saw Jill and Joe just down the street, casual clothes, I'd be like, yo, ain't that Jill and Joe Biden? Like that's what I would say. And then I'd be looking out for snipers to snipe me if I got too close.
Well, you also bring up this point too that like in 2023 we're so much more politically aware. Like I remember in the 90s, like Clinton played the saxophone, and that's what he was known for like 6 years, and we were all fine with it. Like it just we really didn't ask those kind of questions, and I don't think children, especially teens, were encouraged to be that involved within politics. It's only when they started shooting our schools did we have to start paying attention. But in 1998, same year, so like we're getting there. So it makes sense that this was a time when just kids just maybe just weren't aware of what was going on politically. I don't know.
Okay. Can I talk just a little bit about security?
Yes, yeah.
Can I do it? I'm so sorry, everyone. So first of all, I dare everyone to play a drinking game and take a sip or a shot every time security is bad at their job, and you will be dead before the mid.
I don't understand how she didn't die. I don't understand how she didn't die, and it wasn't their fault. Like, screw this. Don't blame Hallie. Don't blame Duncan. All of this should be on the shoulders of the adults you pay.
100%. Well, first of all, I want to say that just right off the bat, when the president is going out and he's out shaking hands and all this other stuff, he's like, I'm gonna go be with the people, and they're like, oh my God, I hate when he does this. I'm like, dude, you're head of security.
Stop this.
You're mad that the president, you have to protect the president in public. That's what you're
right. This is what you do. You guys are the most well-paid babysitters on the planet. You have to protect one family.
And they were like, sir, when you go out and like you hanging out with people, that makes our jobs hard. I'm like, oh, does it? That's number one. Number two is they lose everyone all the time. They don't know where anyone is.
Well, Hallie and Duncan, okay, I just want to quickly just fast forward through this because Duncan steals his dad's car. He picks her up. They go to a movie theater and Hallie's like, hey, we're going to lose them. Let's pretend to make out. And so she throws him on the floor of the movie theater.
I do want to talk about that. I'm really not. But girl, let's ditch the Secret Service. Are you trying to get me shot?
That's what I was just like, there's no way this movie could be about a black kid. No way. I feel as soon as she showed up and she was like, when he was like, oh, I didn't know your dad was the president, I didn't know this was the White House, I would have turned around and went home. I can't have that kind of anxiety.
Well, first of all, again, it's like it requires a suspension of belief because there is a moment where he is like, oh, I think she gave me the wrong address. I think that she's lying to me. He still goes inside looking for her, and I'm like, either you didn't believe her or you did. And I don't mind, like, let's meet the president, and you meet the president because it's her dad, and they give you like this whole speech like they would anyone else. and I'm just like, but then also the president pulls out like a background check.
Yes. So, okay, Ceej, I think I've told this story on this podcast, and I'm just going to quickly sum it up, which is for homecoming one time, a bunch of us got a limo. We went to pick up our dates. And when we went to pick up one girl, we were entered with the dad brought us all into the living room where there were gator heads everywhere. And he had a giant gun. And he's just like, you guys are going to be home at a good time tonight, right? This is an average Floridian. Not the president of the United States. There is no way you're convincing me to just ditch Secret Service and like, no, my entire life I'm gonna disappear.
Girl, I'm calling the Secret Service.
Yes, no, I was just blown away. And okay, so the way that they avoid Secret Service is they're like, oh, I'm gonna throw a diversion. She throws Duncan on the floor, and the Secret Service guys are like, oh yeah, let's give him some space, for kids to roll around on the movie theater floor.
Holly don't get out much. Let her enjoy her life. For that, I was like, you know what? I respect you.
They made it seem like, oh, that's just what teenagers do. They dry hump on the floor of movie theaters. I have never been at an AMC and looked over during Nicole Kidman's big speech to see kids dry humping on the floor. It's just
you're going to the wrong showings. That's it.
Must be.
You're right. When she like throws him on the floor and like as a diversion, and they're like, hey, let them be them. I'm like, okay, you know what? They're letting her have a life. Good for them. But then they sneak out. And I was like, how long did they think she was on the floor?
Yes. I think they were supposed to believe they just got caught up with the movie. I don't know. Okay, so this is the point of the movie where I start to turn on Hallie a little bit. Because they get to the mall and Hallie's just like, hey, let's run up your dad's credit card on a bunch of shit for us that I'm not going to have to answer for later. And like, I'm pretty, so, right?
They absolutely, this part of the movie, there's a couple of moments where they show Hallie to be the privileged white girl that she is. And this is one where she's just like, I mean, just charge it.
Just charge
Girl, this is $730 that I don't have.
$730 in 1998 would be $1,362 today that he spent on
that's
two
Supreme?
outfits.
Like, where'd you go? If you don't take me to Ross, like,
yeah, right? You're at a mall. Like, who is selling the stuff to children at malls? I don't know.
Somebody who was making commission, and she was like, I love that he was. I do like that he was like, first of all, what is your return policy?
Yeah,
and the saleswoman was like, no returns on things on sale. So.
At that point, Duck, you need to be smarter. Hey, I'm going to put the sale one back. I'm going to get the one that's not on sale. I'm going to come back here with the tag on tomorrow.
You're right. Play the game. You're right. He's playing it wrong. If that's the case, if no returns, we going all out.
But honestly, the whole outfit upgrade in general is a great example of how men are often pushed beyond their boundaries, but they're told by media that, oh, well, if you really like this person, you'll do it anyway. You'll get over the fact that, hey, you don't want her driving your car. You'll get over the fact that you shouldn't be spending this because you want to be seen as like a good partner. But you could see how like he is expressing his uncomfortableness with every decision, and she's still just like blowing right past it in a way where I was just like, there's something about this that like needs to get examined, whether it's him expressing his boundaries or her just learning to value the work ethic of a family that doesn't have the privilege that she has.
I love that you said that. To me, first and foremost, I was like, he doesn't like the clothes. He's just like, what do you have me wearing? And she's like, this is so you. And he's like, but it's not. And I was like, okay, that's important. You need to like, because there have been plenty of times where like me and friends have like made over dudes who like wanted to wear something different. Or like I had a friend where it's like we put him in something and we were like, you look great. And he was like, I don't like the feel of this. And we were like, that's important. You have to want to wear it. You don't just wear it because it looks good on you. You have to like be in something that you, especially when you're purchasing clothes, you have to be in clothes that you will voluntarily put back on, or else it's just going to hang in your closet. So the fact that he was like, I don't like these clothes. And she's like, but it looks good on you. I was like, nope, it's not it. That's not the one. And then they kind of paint her as this wild child, which in a way she is like, and I'm like, girl, you needed to be in the house. But like, they paint her as this wild child, and I was like, I have a problem with this because they are kind of putting everything on Hallie, and they're just like, this guy, can you believe what he has to be put up with?
You
and
know
I'm
what?
like, I don't like
I see that, and there's a moment later on in the movie that like humanizes her and changes that for me. But at this moment, when we're at the mall and she's just running up this credit card and not paying attention to any of his boundaries, it's just like I said, like I feel like I've seen this in media enough, and to this day, there's this almost this sprinkle culture of just like, well, men are supposed to go out and they're supposed to buy you your purse and get your hair done and do this and do that, and it's all of this pressure on the men for the idea of like, well, I'm the woman, I'm just supposed to look good on your arm, and like I'm supposed to be this, and it's just like that's really unhealthy, and it being showcased as the norm in so many situations in media, I think played a bigger role in my feeling like, oh, I can't say no when a woman wants me to spend more money than I feel comfortable with because I don't want her to think I'm a broke dude. So Absolutely. There's just things about that just
no, like, I agree. No, I agree with you. It's a yes and. Right after this scene is when security again comes up. They go to the president, and they're like, "We've lost Hallie." Okay, first of all, I think you need to be very specific because wait, no, I think they say she's missing. And it's like, this is the president's daughter. If you say she's missing, that could mean 1,000 things. And the fact that you were saying it very casually, you should not have your job anymore.
Exactly. So you're fired because you had one job. You had one job. You've trained for this. Like
she's missing. You don't know where the president's daughter is. That could literally be national news. Like that is high protocol. Like you should absolutely have a tag on her, a placement, something.
They are all way too casual about her missing, not having any idea where she is. By the way, again, I kind of feel like a lot of this movie is bullshit for even that time, because you have to remember Enemy of the State came out in 1998 too. So this whole idea that we're going to outrun Secret Service on a foot race, I'm like, no, there's satellites involved. They're tracking you.
Exactly. I don't take it. But like, so they say that she's missing. They then the president's like, I want that boy's parents. I'm like, what's that boy's parents got to do with this?
Oh, and I love too that when Secret Service shows up to the house, the sister's just like, no, I know that you're Secret Service. What do you want? Like, do you have a warrant? Like, I love that she was just like, hold on. Let me ask some questions.
Okay, so background, Fletchers, his parents, are having their own dinner party trying to impress the boss so that the father can become VP of his company. Get it? And then the president calls on them, so they interrupt. It becomes this whole thing of like him having stolen the car. It's his dad's company car. Which again, like all of these things, like I do like the idea of, I thought that they would like hide it from the boss, but the fact that they're just like, oh no, it's a red convertible in front of the entire party. And he's like, you let your son drive the company car? But then he was like, oh, he's supposed to get a watch. I was like, no. My son stole.
Yeah, why are you? No,
why are you covering?
The Secret Service are also looking for this kid. Like, he's gonna get his ass beat. Don't worry.
Exactly. That's the difference between white parenting and black parenting. Like, there's no way. He stole that car, and we are going to find him together.
Something I want to mention is while this is all going on, they're on their way to a nightclub, and they stop at a red light, and Hallie signs Duncan up to kick some dude's ass without his consent, without his even involvement. She was just like, oh, you know what? You're talking shit. My boyfriend's a black belt. He'll kick your ass. And I'm just like, girl, you were going to get this dude. What are you doing? Why are you starting shit? Don't start no shit. Won't be no shit.
Have you ever been on a date where like somebody was just talking a big game on your behalf?
No.
Have you ever had that? I'm telling you, I've been on like chaotic dates before where someone else was just like, oh, you want to get into it? They're like a stranger. And I'm like, yo, you got the wrong one. That's not my life.
I'm not catching an ass beating for any of this. Okay. And that gets me to the point. By the time they get to the club, I'm like, Duncan, just go home at this point. Like, she gets to the club, he asks to use the bathroom, and immediately she's dancing with the dude she was making fuck me eyes at.
Okay.
After the mall, in the new outfit that he just bought her. No, go home.
I was very much like, because what happens is she's in his dad's car, because they've snuck out, and he, like,
in the dress his dad's paid for.
They pull up, and this bully from school, Steve or whatever, shows up on a motorcycle. She like looks at him. She's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you are on a date. Like, girl, have some respect.
And again, he's checking her out because she's wearing a dress his date just put on a credit card. Like, this is wild.
This is what I'm talking about, where I was like, her behavior is very much like, it's a complaint from a male screenwriter. They were like, you know how women be doing this? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, not every woman is like this. And so for y'all to make her character this way, it feels weird. It feels like it's a complaint. It feels like it's a man complaining about how women behave on dates. And I was like, that's how they behave with you, because there's something else that's like not being said. Women don't just act this way. And the fact that they are putting this all on her just makes me feel weird.
I do feel like there's an explanation that comes later in the film, but to your point, she is not written any better than any of the characters we've complained about on Boy Meets World. Those girl of the weeks that treat Eric really shitty. I don't feel like this woman is written much, much better. So I actually agree with you.
To that point, do you know that she was on Boy Meets World?
Yes, she was.
Yeah,
I did know that.
And Missy.
Yes, that's right.
In the Last Temptation of Cory episode.
Season 3?
Where she kisses Cory. Yep.
Oh, when Topanga was sick.
When Topanga was sick. This is Missy. Wow. So I thought it was funny that you said she's like one of the girls of the week, because that's actually who she was. She was also Alice in The Adventures of Wonderland, which I thought was great, because I loved that show growing up. A little fun fact. So sorry. Keep going.
So the 90s really made it seem like teenagers could just go clubbing. They made it seem like there was a proliferation of teen-based clubs, or clubs where teenagers could just get in. I'm like, she is 17. She in 16. They already said their ages. How are they at a club?
They're at a club. Okay, so this leads me to my other part. When I said like this is the never-ending night, we go to the movies, to the mall. We're now at Club Alien.
Yes.
After Club Alien, we lose the car.
Oh, yeah.
Then we go to a pool hall. Then and all of this is happening while the dance is happening. And I was like, hey, how long?
And the dads have gone to prison.
Yeah. How long is this dance?
Well, that's the thing. They're at the club and he's like, oh, excuse me. And while she's dancing with the other dude, he's actually kind of being an asshole too, because he's calling his friends at the dance to be like, yo, double that bet. And I'm like, dude, you just spent $800 at the mall. What do you care about another $50 for this bet? Like, your priorities are all over the damn place. And I couldn't make heads or tails as to why that even mattered to him. But yes, to your point, the dance is going on, still happening throughout this point.
Also, we completely skipped over this. When he was allowed to go on the date, they were like, here are a list of places you are allowed to go. And how did the movies make it on that list? With a bunch of strangers?
You're right. Maybe they thought, oh, we could easily keep an eye on them at the movies.
And also, where is the movies? Like, is it not at the mall? Usually movie theaters were at the mall at this time.
I can't make sense of 1998. It was a time of chaos.
Okay. All right, so going back to it, we're now at Club Alien. At Club Alien.
Yeah, she is grinding on his adult bully.
Well, grinding on his adult bully. Then he comes and he's like, yo, what are you doing? And she's like, let me finish dancing with Steve real quick. And they're like, go.
Go home, Duncan. This is red flag after red flag, bro. What are you doing? Is this not turnaround dance, by the way? Is this not the plot? Did it feel very Boy Meets World turnaround dance to you?
It felt a lot. Again, I just couldn't get over the fact that she would boldly be like, yo, I'm grinding on him real quick.
Let me just finish this up.
Let me finish this song. I'll get right back to you.
What's really fun and also makes her more of a villain is, so Duncan's just like, no, those guys that you incentivize into a fight, they're here looking for us. She's like, bet. This VP son that I hate, I'm going to get him involved in this ass whooping somehow. And don't get me wrong, this guy was coming on strong, but strong enough to get, like, assaulted?
Well, in the very beginning, and I'm so glad you brought this up, in the very beginning, she says that the vice president's son, Reed, is constantly harassing her. And her mother is just like, why you always got to make a big deal out of everything?
Right?
Like,
I know that
constantly harassing me and trying
no
to
one responds. No one responds appropriately.
And I was like, what is going on? So when she sees him again, I was like, well, he's been trying to grab her the entire time. So now she's like, oh, if you like hands, here's some hands for you. So I was about that. But I will say, because we totally skipped over this part, when she like makes a really big deal to the guys in the other car, and they're just like, yo, what you say? And they get out. She drives away immediately, and they run over his foot. And he's like, my shoe. Yep. The president's daughter just ran over my toe.
I'm a millionaire.
My children's children are going to college.
I am suing the country.
The taxpayers are paying for my next 12 vacations. Like,
I'm getting a new foot.
That's what I said. I said my whole leg is now shattered.
I'm gonna be like, Gail, you got one of those new RoboCop legs? Yeah. Yep, on the president's dime too, baby.
I love it.
This bitch has wheels on it.
But yeah, all right. So they attack that guy at the time that they're at Club Alien. The car gets stolen, and we get a whole other subplot with these two. I'm gonna say drug addicts.
Sure. Horny drug addicts.
Like, what are we doing? Why do we need a whole plot where we get this robber, this car thief, and his girl? She's like, I'm hungry. We stop for food. We're following them. And I was like, this feels like a whole other, like it's
to your, yeah. I just want to say that this is how a lot of these 90s teen movies, like when you think about even like Superbad, or you think about like American, it's really just like our Harold, the White Castle movies. Yeah. It's really just like, we're going to go from one thing to the next, and one event to the next, and one predicament to the next. And it does kind of feel just like exhausting sometimes, seeing them just go from one, exciting incident to another exciting incident and another exciting incident without it really just landing anywhere.
It does, but what I was confused about is why we get story time and screen time with all these people.
Yes.
Like why do we need to know that they stopped off and robbed another place? Why can't you just say that? Like,
I could have done without it. This movie could have been a bit shorter. To your point, no, I don't think you said this, but you mentioned it on the notes that this was not a Disney Channel movie, nor was it a Disney movie. It was a ABC Sunday night movie, right? Original film.
Part of the Wonderful World of Disney.
Wonderful World of Disney, yeah. Which is Michael Eisner movies. Yeah.
Which is completely different from a Disney original movie, which is why it's not on Disney Plus.
But yeah, so this was meant to be watched with commercial breaks and everything. So you could just feel like there was just some fat they could have just trimmed off to just make it easier to digest. So the car takes off. They get to this pool hall. She is once again about to get his ass beat, and he saves himself with the help of magic, which I loved.
Yeah, I liked it. It felt very much. It reminded me of like that scene in Tangled, where
this whole thing felt very Tangled.
It felt very Tangled, yeah. And he's like, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed everyone really being into the magic, and I enjoyed like by the end of it. I don't know everyone's name.
They would make a fantastic Finn Rider and Tangled, the two of them. Just
actually, I could see that. That's a very good point.
No, I really like that the magic comes back. I love the callback of it. And I think Will really shines in those magician scenes. Like, he was really just like charismatic. And it was just like, oh, okay, that's the dude from Boy Meets World.
Thank you. Like, I love that you said, like, that's the dude from Boy Meets World, because in reality, to me, one of the weakest things about this movie is that Will is asked to play the straight man. And I'm like, there are scenes where it's like he goes into it, you're like, there he is, there's Will. Yeah. Like, and it's like, I don't understand why you have him playing the straight man and her being the chaotic one, when in reality, like, he would be like, I want my Jim Carrey version of Will. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And I didn't mind him playing the straight man, because again, he's attractive and charming, and he's very charismatic even when he's written to be straight, but he is just so magnetic when he is able to just be unhinged. And so Correct. Like, it would be nice to have seen more of that as well. That's so funny. I wrote Rapunzel in here in like big caps before you
Yeah,
mentioned
because
Halo.
that's what I was getting. I was getting Rapunzel.
Okay, so the reason why, okay, so we're at after the Paul Hall scene, there's a moment at the White House, and I want to bring it up because the Bechdel test. We have the two moms talking to each other, and what I love about that is that there's just this moment where like Duncan's mom, and forgive me, I don't know her name, was saying to the
Rita.
first, she was saying to the first lady, like, won't they notice that you're calling? They're like, they never notice when I'm not there. And I was just like, okay, these are two women having like a real moment right now, and I'm
Correct.
here for it. And
Correct.
in the same way, at the prison with the dads, they're having this kind of moment where they're just like, yeah, I'm the president, but like, I don't know who my kid is. And they're both just having these moments of just like, hey, regardless of the roles we have in life, we can't relate to our children in a way that like, you know what? I can tell you're a good guy. You like playing golf. I like playing golf. And in another world, another dimension, we may have been buddies, but we're bonding over this very human experience of relating to our children. So I think they were able to add humanity to everyone's characters in that moment. And right after that, we get the bus scene, which is what I've been wanting to talk about. Because in this scene, what I like about it is the entire movie. We're like, I'm like, oh, hey, is it Haley or Hallie? I'm sorry,
It's Hallie.
Hallie, I'm just like, wow, she's kind of the worst. She's kind of the worst. But, you know, Duncan's talking about like, oh, you know, normal life is boring. You don't want this. And Hallie's like, bro, like every moment of my life is planned. I don't know how to be bored. And then I'm just like, oh, light bulb. The reason why it's chaos to chaos and one big thing to one big thing is because she doesn't know how to just chill. She doesn't know how to not have a like big event. Also, she's never been given the freedom to understand consequences at all because all these decisions are being made for her. So in that moment, you're just like, you know what? You've been a big pain in the ass. And don't get me wrong, you're riddled with red flags. And you should not be considered as a romantic partner.
No.
But I can still sympathize with your life situation and why you are the way you are because you just really didn't have the ability to form any kind of street smarts or understand the what consequences are essentially.
Actually, I agree with everything that you said over like the last few minutes. Like I feel like starting with the two moms having like it's Carol Richmond and Rita Fletcher. Those are the people who those are the parents, the moms. And they do have this moment. And I really enjoyed it because I was like, everything that you said, I was just like, oh, I like that. They didn't have to write that scene, but they do. And they make these two mothers bond over more than just being mothers, over being women in this space and feeling seen, like, and being mothers. And I was like, oh, okay, you're both really well fleshed out. I mean, as well fleshed out as you could be, but way more fleshed out than a lot of other female characters. And so I really enjoyed that scene. Then we get the president and the dad, which again, I was like, oh, this movie is really good at making these pairings and making me care. There's a point later on in the movie where Duncan and his dad are like, hey, we should do more things together. Yeah. I was like, okay, you know, actually, I feel like this is earned and I really like this and I feel good about this moment. And then the conversation on the bus, which you talked about, which is very I think it's Princess and the Pauper of, you know, my life versus your life. And my life is so controlled. I don't have any freedom and I'm watched all the time versus my life is very boring. And it's like the everyday and nothing really exciting, nothing really to brag about, so to speak. So I felt that this movie did really good at creating dynamics and creating dynamics that I cared about individually. The overall story is chaotic, but I'm with you where it's like, oh, I like these moments.
And you know, something else I really liked that we kind of skipped over was when the president does decide to sneak out. I was just like, oh, this is kind of a cute and interesting story. It's like, you know, the kids are always sneaking out on the parents, but this time the parent has to sneak out in the same way. So it's like putting the parent in the kid's shoes, doing something that feels bad in the way that he's like, oh, wow, like I can empathize with her wanting this freedom. And like that would like, so at the end of the movie when he's just like, I'll come home whenever, you can understand it because he made that journey. You got to see him go from A to Z in that way.
Also, to that point, he goes, Haley did it. How hard could it? Like if Haley can figure out how to ditch the Secret Service, I feel like I can. And then rightfully,
an indictment on the Secret Service, by the way.
Then rightfully, what's his name? Duncan's dad goes, "Are you sure you want these people working for you?"
Yeah, exactly.
If you can leave them, Mr. President, they ain't worth the money.
Oh
What
my
are they
God.
keeping secure? It's not you.
Again, they have one job.
And they are terrible
They're
at it.
terrible. I know we're running short on time, so I just want to cover some things. The protest scene. This
You knew
we
I was
have to
going
just
there.
spend a
You knew
moment
I was
here
going
because
there.
this was my
Mm-hmm.
bro moment.
Mm-hmm.
A woman
Mm-hmm.
is at the protest and she says, and I
Not
quote,
a woman, a black woman.
a black woman, yes. And she says, the president is using Secret Service to spy on organizations. And Haley jumps in like, no, he's not. You know, my dad's a good guy, and you don't understand how hard it is to be president. And she's just like, no, you're being naive. You don't know what you're talking about. The grown-ups are talking. Sit down. I'm talking about actual politics. You're talking about, is he a good guy? And what I love about this scene is, don't they do that to us every single time we bring up like a real issue about someone? And they're just like, well, they're a good person and they're trying. No. That's not what this is about.
Do you know how hard it is to be president? He has like barely any time to himself and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Girl, I'm being oppressed.
Yeah.
Can you not?"
I will not empathize with my oppressor.
I am being his policies are oppressive, and that's what I'm talking about. Me in my interview. And so I thought it was like, again, this was the other moment where I was like, they are really having her white girlness be
oh my gosh,
forefront.
this is the most white girl moment of the whole thing. And I was just like, can you imagine 2023? Just a 17-year-old white girl just being to an older black woman. You don't get it. You don't understand what the perception of it all, guys. That's all.
Absolutely. Again, I'm glad you pointed it out because that was very much fun. Also, what's important about that scene is they are at, I was like, if you are avoiding your parents at this point in time, you're avoiding them. Maybe don't go to a protest that is right outside the dinner where your parents are. Second of all, security, what are you doing?
Security loses them on a foot race.
They lose them on a foot race, but they don't.
Unbelievable.
The protest is happening outside where the dinner is. Like they've established that dinner here, protest here, they are here, and Secret Service is like, I don't know where they at.
The news interviews them for 15 damn minutes before anyone even realizes they're outside.
I don't like, again, security is bad. Okay, I just want to say we've kind of skipped over this character, Tracy. Tracy is the little sister who's like,
oh yeah, I love her.
Little child. And see, I was like, I'm already like over like small kids who have like grown personalities. Like it's cute for like a little bit, but like they just use that character over and over again.
Another trope is the younger sibling that's food obsessed. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Teen Witch, but this is a very like common 80s like thing for it to have like a food obsessed little sibling.
You're right. That little girl always has food in her hand. I do like when she sneaks off to the dinner. They're like, where were you?
Did you know how expensive this food was? I'm getting in it. I love that. One thing I want to talk about is the dads get out of prison, and President Richmond says to Secret Service, you know, you find someone else to be president. I'm going to be a father first for the rest of the night.
That's not how that works.
It's not how it works. But story-wise, I think it works really well because, like I said, everyone has an arc. And at the beginning of this movie, President Richmond is like, hey, I need to write a speech about family. And like he's like, oh, family. Like, what could I possibly say about it? And he's trying to write the speech for the purpose of his advance his presidency. But throughout the course of the movie, he has to choose his family over his presidency in a way that actually advances the relationship with the people in his life. So he actually does learn the meaning of family throughout the movie. And so at that moment, it's really him just like, you know, having that arc where he's coming on board with, you know, being a dad.
Question. You are currently a tax-paying citizen who needs services and goods and leadership. Which one would you prefer in a president?
Well, you know what? This brings up a good point because I thought this as well. I was just like, you know, do I want a president or a leader who will choose the betterment of his country over everything, or do you want someone who's like, well, no, like I need to be a dad and a husband, and like it's a real ethical question. It's like the betterment of the good over like having like some semblance of balance.
Yeah, here's the thing. Yes, I completely agree that there needs to be balance. I'm saying he drops everything to go, like, the president is out there willy-nilly, no security.
He doesn't drop
at any point
everything.
in time.
He drops a dinner with high-paying donors. He's like, fuck the wealthy. I'm going to be a dad. So, like, there's something about that.
You're telling me there's nothing else that could have been on his plate?
Oh, I'm sure. But according to the movie, the plot of the movie, the only thing he missed was a dinner with a bunch of rich people.
Here's the thing. You're not wrong. I'm saying that the president is the president and you have things to do. Do you know how many things I have to do right now that I'm ignoring to do this podcast?
Well, like I don't think President Obama was like moving in on like Bin Laden and they were like, hey, Malia needs your help. Like, can you push pause on this whole operation? Like, I don't think it was anything that serious, but who knows?
Again, to me, it feels like I'm with you where it's like you do want balance. There needs to be balance. However, at a certain point in time, when you have a position and or role, it is expected that you will put the role above all. That's one of the things that I love about The Crown. The Crown shows very, very clearly that the thing that made The Crown stay, again, we're talking about power here, and in general, should there be these levels of powers? I'm not saying that there should be. I'm saying when you take on the mantle of something like that, the mantle comes first. Like the thing about The Crown that she always put is like, the crown is above me even. Like the crown has to come first. I can't be your mom when I have to be the queen. And at this point in time, I can't be your dad when I have to be the president.
I don't disagree, but on The Crown, it's like, hey, no one's going to impeach me if I don't do this. There's no real stakes to this. Your entire life is this. Our country is you have 4 years, maybe 8.
And
so it's like a different
year,
relationship.
As we've been saying.
And I think it's interesting, the point that you're bringing up, because if you look at the way our country has had elections, we almost ask that all of the people running for president have a family, have kids, have a dog, have other responsibilities that, to your point, would be liabilities in a situation where the country needs them to choose the betterment of the nation over their personal well-being.
I'm just saying, like, it's again, for me, how I look at it is, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be a good dad. I think that there are moments where he is a good dad, and I'm happy for him, and I think that this movie paints him as a good father. President? Like, is he a good president?
If the movie had been like, I'm not going to run again because I want to be a dad.
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. If I had gotten that ending, I would have been like, okay, you understand that you had to make a choice and you're choosing your family. Fine, whatever. Because your head's not in the game and your head has to be in the game. The black woman has a point where she's like, yo, he ain't thinking about us. We literally see him not thinking about them.
What I love about that too is that the Black List is literally the wildest shit. It's like he has spies on our organization. Like, she's saying something very real that no one pays any actual attention to. It just goes into like he's nice. Exactly. And it's just the major problems are being swept under the rug. Okay, wrap up the movie. Okay, wait, no, we're at the rooftop. Duncan admits to lying about his background. Haley admits to lying about being the first kid. They dance, very rom-com, very cute. But even though they both admitted to just lying to each other, Duncan says, well, I asked you to this dance initially because of a bet. And she just like, so I'm just a prize to be won? I'm just a bet? How dare you? And walks away.
We've established that I didn't know you were the president's daughter at the time. So...
like, how could I? Yeah. And again, I still don't think that, hey, get a date is the same as, take that person and make her this. It's a different kind of thing. I didn't feel like he did abandon him an 8th time.
He did up the ante when he was like, oh, yo, I'm bringing the president's daughter to the dance.
Yes. Like, and that was probably the douchiest thing.
That was like definitely wrong. And the fact that literally, even at this point in time, they're on the rooftop, he's like, yo, we got to get to the dance. And she's like, yo, why are you harping on this dance so much? To be fair, we have had a wild and crazy night. Are you not tired? Do you not want to get some cheese fries?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
he
cheese
isn't.
fries.
Yeah. At that is the point in time at night where you are going to get some cheese fries. And instead, he is acting. He's like pressuring her to go to the
I'm not
dance.
saying he's not being sus. I'm saying that she has signed him up for multiple fights tonight. Correct. Is this really the thing that's making her walk away?
And then she runs away to Steve again. And here's the thing, I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting Steve to be a terrorist. I mean, like they constantly talking about she could get kidnapped at any point in time, and Steve is just always there. Were you not expecting something more from Steve?
No, I expected exactly what we got, which is for him to take her to what I can only imagine is a sexually assault themed party.
Frat house, so yeah.
And it just felt like, oh, this looks like it could take a very dark turn. I don't
absolutely. By the way, I don't know about you because you don't date men, but as someone who has dated men, I have totally been to one of those parties where you get there and everything is dirty and you're like, how do I end up here?
I mean, those college parties especially were just like, yeah.
You look around and you just like, ain't nothing safe and not one good decision is being made.
Also, just genuinely not fun. I've been to those parties. It's not a good time.
Fun. And that's why, like, at some point in time, she's like, I want to leave. I want to get out of here. He's like, no one leaves Steve. And I'm like, oh, okay. See, we've entered to a territory.
It's coming out. And then Duncan gets his George McFly moment where he shows up just in the nick of time to protect her from like how far that was going to go. They get into another fight. Again, this dude's been fighting all night and clocks him.
He earned that black belt he said he had.
Exactly.
He put in the hours.
And then they, make up again at the CGI Lincoln Memorial. And the dads make up. The president arranges to go golfing with the other dad's boss. So he makes up for all of those shenanigans. And then they finally are back at the White House, right? She finally comes back.
I just want to recap what you like that's the movie, but I want to say. So again, we have gone to the movies. Then we went to the mall. Then we went to Club Alien. Then we lost the car. Then we went to the pool hall. Then we went to the rooftop. Then we went to Steve's. We had enough time to go house to house looking for Steve's because he didn't know Steve's exact address. He took a page out of the phone book. Then we go to the Lincoln Memorial. The entire time, Secret Service is supposedly looking for these two people who are going across town. And are now at the Lincoln Memorial, a government-owned property not far from the White House.
No.
And then
you can walk there.
Yeah, exactly. And then after all of that, they come back to the White House. And
she comes back to the White House.
She comes back to the White House. I was like, you've been going all night. In a regular situation, your parents would be like, where were you?
When I wrote this at the beginning of the movie too, I was like, man, can you remember a time where like you could piss your parents off and there was no cell phone, so they just had to sit with that until you got home? You were just, and you could be like, oh, let's just have the night of our lives, and whatever consequences happen in the morning will happen. It's like, no, like you could never do that these days, and what a glorious moment of time.
Well, also the idea of like this is how you know there are no black parents in this movie. You ain't come home it's not that you missed curfew, but like it's 10:30 and you were supposed to be home at 10. It's not midnight and you were supposed to be home at 10. It is 3 a.m. Tracy up here asking for pancakes. Like, it has been all night. Your father went to prison looking for you.
Yes. And you thought the worst was over, but it wasn't until after you got back in the car that he had that Home Alone 2 moment of being like, Kevin, you charged $800 on the credit card. That whole thing of just being like, you charged how much on my credit card for that jacket, bro? Like,
exactly.
All of it's happening at once.
So to me, in general, I was like, this is insane. You came home at 3 a.m. on your first night out and you want to go out? You wonder why you ain't allowed outside? This is why.
This is why. One thing I need to mention is that the Secret Service says that Haley cost the taxpayers $50,000 goddamn dollars. Mm-hmm. And what was this manhunt for her overnight, which in today's money is $93,290, almost $100,000. She spent
actually,
taxpayers' money.
That's coming out of your paycheck, Kevin. Like, what were you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can make up that money right now. You're fired. You're fired. Let's take those Christmas bonuses and let's put it to
because, sir, like, you didn't even find her. She came to us. Yeah. And then, also, we skipped over the fact that they originally, like, they were like, oh, we got the car because the car was stolen. And they bring in again the druggy car thief. And I was like, first of all, those two are having a great night. They are high as a kite. There's the only way that they behave the way that they do. And everyone calls the president Mr. P, which again, I'm really enjoying. But also the idea that they would bring her, like this couple, to the White House and be like, sir, we found them. Do y'all not know what my daughter looks like?
That's the problem.
Does this look like my daughter?
They don't even know. No one knows. This is the problem.
How are you keeping track of somebody you don't know? You didn't have a headshot to compare to.
A searing indictment on the entire department. Imagine Bin Laden watching this and being like, I think our plane idea will work, guys.
I'm clearing house. Ain't nobody keeping a job.
This just makes our country look bad, guys. Like, get it together. Wow. Okay, so yeah, and then the movie ends with somehow them being able to go out again.
Okay, so the movie ends with the president coming to Duncan's school to take Duncan out of class in the middle of the
middle of a school day. Why not go to his house? Like, why do it in the middle of
By the way, this happened Saturday night. It is Monday morning. What were you doing on Sunday? Number one. Number two, you came in the middle of a school day to tell this guy who went out with your daughter that he could go out with your daughter again.
This is a phone call.
I was like, do you not care about education? This would be all over the news.
This is what I'm saying. She wasted taxpayers' money because of the example of him. He is using taxpayers' money to interrupt schooling for a 17-year-old instead of just making a phone call on a Sunday night. What are you doing?
The Secret Service had to come out again to watch you go to this school. So yeah, and the movie ends with the song coming back and them having the security detail that they should have had in the very beginning, and that's how it ends.
Yep.
That's the movie. I want to see if there are a few other little things. First of all, the president this entire time, President Richmond, is played by Dabney Coleman, who is the boss from 9 to 5, but he is also the voice of Principal Prickly in Recess.
Oh, okay.
So he is Mr. P. I thought that was really cool. Also, as you said, I think this is the first movie in the wonderful world of Disney movies.
Was it the first one?
I think.
Do you know any of the other ones?
So Brandy Cinderella was one of these movies, and that one was so popular that they demanded it be on Disney Plus, and that's how it got on Disney Plus.
I remember a Christy Alley movie called Toothless.
I love Toothless. I love Toothless.
Love Christy Alley.
Literally, oh my god, I love that movie so much. I don't even know how to express it. And then there are a few other ones. Oh god, I know I think there's one with like Tia and Tamara as well.
Okay, I have a question for you based off of this movie.
Yeah.
Who do you think would be the best presidential in-laws? You can't choose the Obamas.
I'm not gonna lie. No, it's controversial. I know they have they weren't all there with black people, but black people still love them. I'm going Clintons. Clintons. Clintons by far are the ones I have the best chance with. Everybody else, mad problematic.
I don't doubt that at all. But surprisingly, am gonna go with George Bush. The reason being, not because of the
W or
politics.
HW?
W. And the
Okay.
reason being is because he just seems like he don't care.
Oh, actually,
He don't care.
the Bush twins were in fact, the version of Hallie that they were talking about. They were
Exactly.
everywhere.
And it just feels like, dude, he's barely holding it together. He's got bigger fish to fry right now. He's not paying attention to what I'm doing with his daughter. So that's the one I'm
Nobody
thinking.
was. This like so, if anything, this movie was prophetic because the Bush twins were exactly the type of first kids that they wrote Haley to be. I will also say that we cannot end this movie without talking about the iconic pink dress. I
Oh, her
cannot tell you
reveal.
like this. I of course I didn't know about this, but the reveal dress, which is the pink dress that she wears in this movie, is all over TikTok. There are so many people
Oh.
who bought it, replicated it, talk like this is up there with Cher's outfit with yeah, it's just like an iconic
Well, this is
90s.
like peak Y2K fashion era, right? Like the kind of fashion that's coming back in an aesthetic nowadays. This fits in perfectly with like that Olivia Rodrigo type of like
It does,
1999 retro 70s but Y2K mix.
but lots of people talk about this dress as like, and also to me, I was like, this dress is a perfect Barbie dress. Like
Ooh,
I could see this dress being worn at like the Barbie premiere. It just feels
ooh,
like it fits. You know, it's
absolutely.
perfectly pink. Yeah, her blonde hair makes it work. Yeah, I don't know. So
So,
we had to talk about it.
overall thoughts on the movie? How'd you like it? This is
Overall,
your first time.
I will not lie. I thought this movie just lasted forever. I found some good things about this movie. Would I watch it again? If I made it into a drinking game? Yes.
I have not watched this movie since the 90s or the 2000s. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I
Okay.
loved
Okay.
Will. I actually thought that, they had a great chemistry. Like I said, I thought that everyone had arcs. I feel like what this movie was missing was humor. Like the reason
Yes.
why First Kid works is because Sinbad is able to take a script that feels kind of mundane and add his Sinbadness to it so that it humors it up. And
Also, you were talking stakes again. For me, in the first kid, there's literally like there is someone out for the first kid.
exactly, yeah.
And that's what I was expecting from the Steve character. Like, if you had the Steve character actually turn out to be the one character, like she's always like, "Oh, who's going to kidnap me in the
Yeah.
middle of DC?" If you had Steve had like some master plan to like kidnap the president's daughter or whatever, it would have given validity to her parents' concern. It would have given Duncan a chance to step up, and it
Sure.
just would have actually added stakes to this movie that I feel like it needed. That's how I feel.
But again, to my point, if you take any of the like non-iconic rom coms from this era, like the Sandra Bullock movies that they don't play on TBS, this is just as good. It's
Yeah.
just as good as the average rom com from the era. So because of that, I'm just like, you know what? This was this wasn't too bad. This
Okay.
wasn't too bad.
Okay. I'll allow it. You guys, let us know what you think of this movie. I know that so many of you were really excited to do this movie. I know that you guys are really excited for Pod to do this movie. We don't know if they'll do it, but we did it first. So thank you guys so much for doing this rewatch with us, our extra credit episode of My Date with the President's Daughter. As always, reach out to us at Bruh
Absolutely.
Meets World on all the places.
On thread.
On thread. Again, as we said earlier, please help us with our YouTube. Go over there and subscribe. And if you guys have any other thoughts, anything else that you want to say, and as always, dream,
Try.
and do good.
Later, bros.
Later, bros.
Well, I like it kind of bros. Kind of.
When this boy meets world.